Hey, y'all. So it's been a little bit since we've kind of heard or seen from each other, but I wanted to continue to provide you with the best support that I can. This is a very difficult time for teachers, administrators, and for parents. So I'm going to do what I think is my responsibility and to help you out as parents. Again, anything that I'm saying here is not district driven. It is personal. It is just my personal perspective as a parent and as a teacher to help you as you try to make these decisions for your kiddos. So I'm going to give you what I know and the information that we have right now. So when you go to the Keller ISD website and you choose the back to school link, you'll get these instructional choices as an option. When you scroll through here, you'll see that there's information for in-person as well as remote instruction, and it's broken apart in different grades. So you can go ahead and search through pre-K through 12. So what I first wanted to show you is what information we have for face-to-face. And so this information has been updated as of August 1st. And so what we have here on the website is the most up to date so far, and they're continuing to update it. So it's important that if this is the option that you're choosing, that you keep looking back at the safety protocols. When you click on that link, you're going to be taken to another web page. And that information here is going to tell you kind of the plan for what it looks like in person. There is a link for what we're doing to prevent illness, what we're doing to mitigate the transmission, and then what we're going to do for the response. The mitigation is going to be like the procedures for wearing a mask and cleaning in between classes, not combining classes, and those kinds of things. So students under the age of 7 during bus rides, walking the halls, and entering and exiting building will be wearing a mask. Students age 7 and older, so second grade and up, will be wearing a mask the entire day. All teachers, staff, and visitors throughout the day will be wearing a mask. It has been made to our knowledge that there will be no parent volunteers or any kind of volunteers in the building for the whole school year. So just so you know about that. So here is more detailed information for the face mask situation and the face shields, information on face shields. I know that we were told that if we chose to wear a face shield, we would also have to wear a mask. Only certain expertise like speech pathologists will be able to do only the mask. So distancing, they will be doing 6 feet from teachers, from students. And so that 6 feet will remain the same. Students they're trying to arrange the students into cohorts to minimize the interaction between large groups. I don't know how that was going to work necessarily in the younger grades. Desks will be placed 6 feet apart. They'll be eating in the classroom. And for recess, the kids are not going to commingle. So we will have all teachers out there on duty. At Florence, it's going to be a little tricky because that field that we normally would have is now under construction, and we're not sure that they can use the playground equipment. So we'll have to figure out what's going on with that. We're not sure about COCR and how that's going to work. There is going to be strategic arrival and dismissal times for the students won't be congregating in one area anymore. They'll go straight to their classroom. And that kind of is the gist of what we know for the classroom as far as what the classroom will look like or how we're going to maintain the 6 feet or any of that stuff. That will be hopefully communicated tonight at the board meeting. The other thing I wanted to show you is the response. So what will happen if there is an exposure? So what I want to show you is what that will look like. So this page is really important for if a student is diagnosed and has a positive test, or if a teacher has a positive test, or somebody in the family those kinds of exposures and what that will do. It's very standard for what you see in a workplace now, or what you've seen out in the community. If somebody tests positive, and the risk assessment or exposure rate will be evaluated, and whether or not a student will need to be sent home or tested will be revealed after that. So this, if you are choosing face-to-face, this is something that you will need to really look at to see what that is going to look like for you and kind of what that means throughout the school year and how that's going to be handled. It is yet to be told to us what that will look like if we have to go into quarantine or if a school gets shut down and the procedures for that. So we'll kind of have to follow along with that and see what is going to happen. So that is if your student is going on in person. That's kind of what we know. So there probably will not be flexible grouping for math, but we are going to try and get hybrid to continue as best we can, but we still need to meet and discuss with that. Hopefully, again, the board meeting tonight will give us some more direction on that. What I know for online is a little bit more clear, and so I'm going to go into that a little bit more. So for online, it's going to be a little bit simpler. They have a one-stop shop for students this time. So you would go to your KCloud and your student would sign in, which most of you had practice with using the student ID. So in KCloud, they have changed it a little bit. It's going to look a little bit different than mine because I'm a teacher. But when you get into KCloud, what you will see is down at the bottom, you will have these different buttons. And here, your student will have a backpack option. When you click on that backpack option, you'll be opened up to all of your students' classes. So if your students in the upper grades, these might be different teachers. If you're in the elementary age, these will be classes that are typically run by one teacher. Hybrid might be a different thing, but in these different classes, you will see that the teacher will then upload all the different apps that they'll be using. So that way, when you need to go in and, connect or do an assignment or do an activity, those will all be within this backpack. You don't have to go and find it. You don't have to keep track of everything. All of the passwords and everything will be right there in the backpack. And so there's just one entry point regardless of the class. So that is something that Keller created for y'all for remote learning. The other thing that I wanted to go over with you is that this sample schedule. So this is for K through 4. It's a sample schedule. And if you know, there is actually a lot of opportunities for the teachers and the students to connect, for students to connect. And it's very constant with high accountability and engagement and motivation. So this is best practice. It's the research that I've seen out there. That's the best option for not actually connecting in person. So what it's going to look like is a lot like what we did in the spring. So what you see here is that at the beginning of the day at 8 o'clock for 15 minutes, there will be a Zoom meeting where your student and the teacher are going to get together and they'll do their morning meeting. So that's very similar to what you saw in my classroom where we daily just kind of connected and said, this is what's going on for the day. So that's very similar to what you'll see. It's also what would happen in the classroom. So this schedule is really trying to mimic what it would look like face-to-face. So the amount of independent work and the amount of collaboration and the amount of teacher-only talking is really meant to mimic the face-to-face classroom. So it's going to be something that your students are more comfortable with. It's going to be something that teachers are a little bit more comfortable with. And it's also best practice for developing deeper learning. So there's going to be opportunities for more discovery and not so much just a worksheet and checking things off. The other thing is that online is going to be graded just like it would be in the classroom. So there's going to be genuine feedback and interaction with the teacher and the work that's being provided. And there's real assessments as far as what the student is learning and how to support that student, no different than face-to-face. So it's very different from what we saw in the spring. So it's kind of exciting that this was pulled together. So it starts today with that whole class, and then we go into blended learning, which blended learning is going to be a combination of face-to-face interaction as well as the independent work that the student will be doing. So some teachers are going to make that look a little bit different. It might be that they watch a video lesson, answer some questions online, and then they come together and they talk about it in a live Zoom. It might be that the teacher does a interactive activity and then has them go off and work, or maybe they're going to do small groups. It really kind of depends on what the teacher decides to do for that lesson. Then they'll go into the self-paced learning, and what that would look like is just independent work. So whatever the teacher is giving them to go off and do, that's when they will be doing it. So this will be on their own, and this will be where if they need any supports, it would be during that time. So again, if you look and see that self-paced learning is only for about 10 minutes, and then the teacher is going to connect with them again. Now, this will be a rotation, so maybe that 10 minutes of self-paced learning gets extended a little bit for different groups, but the teacher will then be touching base with them and differentiating and providing the supports that your student needs. So this structure is really similar to what we would do in class. It's exactly the structure that we would do face-to-face, so everybody should be pretty comfortable with that. Again, everything is going to be in that KCloud backpack, so even though we're meeting in Zoom, give me a minute. Okay, so then after that small group rotation that they will do for ELA, then there will be a transition and movement, just a break, really a 5-minute break for the kids to go do something else, or to get resituated, or to get prepared for something else. If you notice that K through 4, they have the same type of schedule. And so what this sample schedule will show us is that hopefully all the students that are in K through 4 would have a similarly guided schedule, so that way you as parents will be able to support the students however is needed within the same content area with the same kind of pacing schedule, so that way you can keep supporting them very similarly, and that it's not this overwhelming, you have to know what everybody's doing at different times. Obviously, if that's the case, then I would speak up and see if there was something different that could be done. Then you move into writing, which is much like reading. There is the self-paced learning, and then there's the student rotational groups. You get another break, and then you have the math block, again, blended learning, and rotation groups. So if you can see that the independent work that the students are doing is very small. They're very small increments. There's not very much time where the students aren't actually being supported by either another student or by a teacher. Then we have about an hour for lunch and recess. Then we go into CoCur. We haven't been given much information about how CoCur will work in person or remotely, so I don't have much to share in that way. The afternoon is the larger portion of the self-paced learning, where it's the independent activity, and that's where a lot of the flexibility comes in. That hour from 1, or hour and a half, I guess, from 1 to 2:30 is that hour and a half is where you see a lot of the students trying to guide their own activities for the day and what supports are going to be there for the student. Now that will be guided and given by the parents through apps that are in the, or it's not through parents, sorry, through teachers in the backpack. So the students will know exactly what their expectation is for that day. You may be there, especially for the first couple of weeks, trying to help them access those things and where they might be. But eventually those should be things that the kids can do independently. They also might be videos. They might be lectures or mini lessons that the teacher wants the child to listen to and complete an exit ticket so she knows where they're going to be the next day when she meets with them. Then we have more small groups, which again is a rotation of the teacher interacting with them. Maybe she'll review the independent work that was done, or maybe that teacher will encourage them to start something else, maybe push their thinking, or get them ready for what they're going to be doing the next day. Who knows? It can be very flexible for what the students need and what the teacher needs to get done with the students. And then we have another independent lesson or independent time. It might be based off of what was done in that student rotational group. Maybe she wants them to go and practice again what she went over with them, or maybe she wanted to push their thinking and it's going to extend the activity. Then we close the day at 3:00 every day with a 10-minute Zoom lesson. So just kind of wrap up everything, review the day, troubleshoot anything, ask questions, those kinds of things. So that's the gist for online. And what I learned in my trainings this week are the beautiful options that we have with different technology, and the school has purchased, or the district has purchased Nearpod, which is highly engaging, and it provides the opportunity for when the students are working on something. Let's say that I'm teaching them a lesson in Nearpod and I want them to do a compare and contrast Venn diagram. So they go and they work on that independently. Well, while they're working on that independently through the computer, I have the access to see all of the students and what they're working on, and I can see where they are, talk to them over the video or over the screen, and try to help guide them through what they're working on. That's no different than walking around the classroom and seeing what they're working on and providing the support as needed. Nearpod also has opportunities for collaboration and partner work, giving feedback, doing a gallery walk where they review what other people are sharing, maybe having a conversation back and forth. It allows for students to create videos to ask questions, or they can just use their voice, or they can use text. It's really kind of whatever the student is comfortable with. There's a lot of different ways that student engagement and collaboration are being shared within Nearpod and within this backpack option, as well as all of these different ways that the teacher is going to be interacting with the students. If you notice, there's a whole group in the beginning and a whole group at the end. The rest is small groups, so that focus for the teacher and the student is going to be a little bit more intentional this time. So I hope that kind of sends you guys in the right direction. Your instructional choice is due on the 5th, and then we will kind of be able to move forward as a district as far as what's going on. There is the board meeting tonight, which is the 3rd, where they're kind of putting their stamp of approval on different pieces. So I would definitely listen in if you can. If you have any questions, obviously I'm here for you. And again, this is just my personal feedback of what's going on. I'm just not meant to influence you. I respect you completely. And I know that you know what's best for your kids and for your family. And I send you all my love. Give the kiddos a hug for me.